We're all in the same boat, fellas.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really.
Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Hey, Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit on the walls and the mozzarella sticks? You mean shenanigans? No. You're about shenanigans, right?
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. I'm your host, Gus Manty. We are bringing to you episode 49 here as we get Taylor Flannery on from Musky Guarantee Guide Service. Before we get into any details on the interview, let's introduce the other Muskies on Tap crew here tonight. We got none other than my brother, Max. How you doing tonight, Max?
Gus, I am fantastic. We have Masters weekend here. We got Cave Run coming up in a few weeks. We got Southern Opener coming up in a few weeks. Weather's getting warmer. Things are happening. Snow's melting. Life's good. Ready to roll on this one here this evening. Had a great interview for you guys. Another Northwoods, Wisconsin guide. Gus, if you don't mind, let me introduce our third member here. Looking snappy in his Rowback hoodie. He's definitely ready to go this evening. Brian, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing tremendous. I was planning on echoing a lot of the things you said. A lot of good stuff coming up. Masters this weekend. Rory McIlroy running away with it. I was actually able today to get out and lash a few at the driving range. First time of the year. Felt great. Nice. And then after this little golf thing here, we got musky fishing a few weeks out. So looking forward to the future.
Yeah. I love it, man. I'm glad you'll be joining us here for Southern Opener. I'm sure we'll unpack that in a few weeks, but we actually have a musky trip officially on the books and within our sights for 2024. So I know
Weather watch starts soon.
We're on the weather watch. Everything is shaping up for a good Southern Opener bite. Gus, would you agree with that?
I definitely would agree with that. I like the progression that we're having. This temperature, weather we're getting is very stable, I would say. Lots of 50s, couple low 60s. We're getting some rain in the forecast. All the highs are above freezing. I mean, can't ask for a better April, to be honest. And pretty much all the ice is gone off of just about every Oneida and Vilas County lake. If I'm not mistaken, maybe a couple days from now. For sure this weekend, it's going to be sunny and 60. That'll do it for sure.
I was just going to say, I know I wanted to get a lowdown from you on what the status was up there in the North Woods. I know you've been already out on the boat, making sure she floats, making sure she runs right, been out mapping a few new bodies of water that we're going to hit for this year. How's it feel to be back out on some open water in the North Woods past few days?
Man, feels damn good. Feels good to be floating around, letting the wind drift the boat wherever it takes it. Running up and down shorelines, checking shallow cover, seeing if I see some life in the shallows yet. They're getting there. I've seen some pike cruising around as they're hitting some bass baits. So life is happening. Some of those lakes that have been opened up to the from the ice are actually already a good bit above 40 degrees. So for all of you smallmouth fanatics, it's gonna be a shallow bite soon. So look forward to that. That's gonna be a good time. And then obviously this year's opener for walleye, for anybody that does that, should be probably completely different than last year. Last year the ice came off like a day or two before opener. I know a lot of people were just whacking them up like ultra shallow. I'm sure we could probably find the same pattern, but it could be, a week or two ahead. So definitely just be prepared to try some different spots.
I saw on your socials that you're actually gonna run a few smallmouth guide trips this spring. Is that what's that looking like for you?
Yeah, I plan on taking a few out. We've kind of always been catching some smallmouth here and there, and then last year I'd say we really dialed in that pre-spawn bite. it was really good last May. I expect it to be maybe a week or so ahead. So early to mid-May is when I plan to take a couple trips and kind of just dip my toes in the water on guiding for that. Take some, short trips, some 4 to 6 hour trips out there and see if we can just go for numbers. I think it would be a lot of fun. Chance at a 21-inch plus, 5 to 6 or better pound smallmouth in an inland lake. This is all inland up north fishing, which makes it even more special. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast.
What water temp are you kind of targeting for this prime smallie bite? What was it last year?
Man, I want to say it was approaching like 60, like it was in that like mid 50s to upper 60s. I want to say it was when we really put a beat down on them. Sorry about that. Meant to say mid 50s to upper 50s, not upper 60s. They were starting, they were pretty heavily on beds, I think last year, getting pretty close to Memorial Day. But prior to that, they were roaming the flats like crazy. And they were still all fat and sassy for a good portion of mid to late May. And then we kind of shifted gears for Northern Opener.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that last year, and I think if anybody has a inclination to get out on the water before Northern Opener in the Northwoods, should definitely shoot you a message because yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, it's a good way to scratch the itch for muskies get going, and those smallmouth, man, they definitely are no they don't mess around. I mean, you get some pretty sweet eats. I mean, we had a freaking, what do we have, like a boat side eat last year? That was really exciting. Bunch of
Yeah.
different cool things happened out there. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to get up there for a piece of that this year. But if not, good luck with guiding stuff. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Trying to add a couple lakes to the repertoire. I think as of last year, we probably had a good 5 or 6 to run to. So I'm hoping to get that to an even dozen.
Mm.
Make the rounds on following the smallmouth, just as you do for muskie. If a lake is fully developed, you go hammer it. Say in late June, and then once that is kind of gone off, you kind of go to a bigger lake, and then from there you just kind of pick and choose a larger or smaller lake to go either fast forward or back in time on the bite. Like if we're getting some pre-spawn fish on a 300-acre lake, and then all of a sudden we want to go to a larger lake a week later. But all right, enough about smallmouth and all that stuff. Let's just dive right into the interview and stay tuned for the March Madness Muskies on Tap bracket winner. We'll announce that after the interview. So without further ado, here's the interview with Taylor. All right, here on the line tonight, we got Taylor Flannery from Musky Guarantee Guide Service in the Northwoods of Wisconsin. That, if I'm not mistaken, Taylor, Oneida, Vilas, Forest, and Langlade kind of regions. Yep. Sweet. Well, happy to have you on here tonight. We're really looking forward to our chat on probably talking about everything musky fishing up here in the Northwoods. And I'm sure it's going to go into many different directions, but how are you doing tonight, Taylor?
I'm doing wonderful. I got the kids tucked away. She's starting single mom summer early, I guess. So
Nice, good training.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got to see you at the shows this season. I got to see you at Wausau for sure, right?
Yep. Yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure.
that's the only actual muskie show I did. I did a couple of smaller fishing shows, just outdoor expos, that kind of thing. But the Wisconsin one's the only one that I went to.
Nice. Well, maybe start off there. How did your seminar go on that Friday night?
It was really good. There was actually a lot more people in there for that time than I thought there was going to be. I figured that a lot of people would be, running into the show and grabbing every bait that, they had their sights on, that was kind of like their focus. But it was actually really surprising how many people were they were adamant about getting in there and seeing the presentation and wanting to learn something. Not that I, gave away any big secrets, but there was a lot of interaction, after the thing or whatever. A lot of people stayed after, asked questions, and were genuinely interested in the topic. So that was all good.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, it's always a good thing when you get done with a seminar and people come up afterwards right away to either shake your hand and meet you or ask questions about the seminar more. I think that means it definitely went super well, and happy to hear a bunch of people showed up to that. I mean, overall, it was like a madhouse zoo that Friday when it opened. I remember it was just like a crazy wave of people right away. So it's good that
Yeah,
people went and stopped and listened in on your seminar.
right on. Yeah, there was definitely more people that Friday night than I've ever seen there on a Friday night. I don't know if it was just advertising or weather or people had the musky bug or what it was, but there was a lot of people in there. That was for sure.
Good weather
Good
definitely helps for a Wisconsin Muskie Expo because you never know
Right.
what can happen in March.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Taylor, real quick, I kind of alluded to this before we started recording here, but I had to get at you about something. So we were introducing ourselves here, but I've actually met you before on the water, whether you remember it or not. You were up fishing a lake kind of near us, and you decided to stick a big old beautiful fish right behind us. And pretty funny enough, Gus and I that day were kind of I think we had just gotten done with the PMTT, so we'd spent a lot of time in the boat together, and we were kind of a little bit at wit's end. I remember we were kind of bickering, like, should we fish here? Should we fish there? Or whatever. And we looked back and we saw this boat, and they were kind of coming down, a certain line, and Gus was like, that's the line I want to fish. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And we hadn't seen anything all day, and all of a sudden we're just casting, and we hear this big hooping and hollering behind us. So sure enough, Gus, looks at me kind of like, I fucking told you so. And we drove up past you guys, and you guys were really cool. You're like, look at this, like, check it out. And you guys pull this nice big old fish out of the net. And it's funny enough, like, I think it was a year or something later, Gus goes, dude, you know who that was on Lake X? It was Taylor. He was right behind us. And he's the one who stuck that fish.
Yeah, because I met you at the Wisconsin Muskie Expo last year, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Do you want to know something's going to hurt your feelings?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
That was the second fish behind you. You didn't see the first one. Yeah.
That I did know.
Third, something like that. It was probably only maybe 8 to 10 minutes apart. We caught those two.
That's so funny.
If that tells you anything, folks, on bite windows, and who cares if you roll in behind somebody, because you were definitely, you got that big one on like a regular bulldog.
Yep. Yeah, regular.
I couldn't tell you what we were throwing that day. It definitely wasn't that.
We were throwing a regular Medusa, and whoever was in the front had blades. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Memory.
That's a very good memory. If you say Medusa, there's a good chance I was probably throwing actually maybe I was throwing a mid Medusa or regular Medusa.
It was black.
Yeah, I couldn't remember, but yeah, that's hilarious. Dang.
Yeah, just a small world. Funny story I had to bring up because
Same day, same lake.
Yeah.
And that day was like everything was coming together too. We had that big storm rolling in, if you remember, and just felt so good.
Did you guys get hit with the hail, or did you bail out before
We
that?
bailed out. Our dad was with us, so we did not want to get caught up in that. And was there a decent amount of boats on the lake that day? Didn't want to wait at the launch. Yeah.
Everything, hit the hay. Everybody just peeled off, and my buddy that was with me, he's like, we can stick it out. It'll be all good.
Oh yeah.
That was fun.
The funny part is, like, I don't know what it is with that lake, but it's like the only lake that I've been hailed on at. So I guess there's only a few people that know that I've been hailed on a lake. So I guess they would know which lake we're talking about, but something about that lake and hail. Go
Yeah.
hand in hand.
I've been hit twice on that lake with hail now, so that's
Yeah, that's
Weird.
Yeah.
insane.
Oh, good stuff. Well, so let's just had to get that out of the way. Just funny, very weird small world story because there's a million different lakes that we were trying to think between that day, and I'm sure you were probably doing the same maybe, but ended up at the same place, same spot, and you guys stick that awesome fish, and apparently another one too, which is awesome. So let's kind of throw it back here and fill us in on how this muskie thing started for you and guiding and all that, fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I've said this before, but I started musky fishing at a young age, and I completely hated it. I I went out with my brother all the time. We had a 14-foot, aluminum boat. We were at the mercy of the wind. We didn't have a trolling motor. I think we had a 5.5 or a 6-horse motor on it. Basically all we would do is just drift weed lines and cast some cabbage. And most of the time I would just throw a little spinner bait or something trying to catch northerns because I was bored out of my mind. But we threw a lot of suics and whatnot. You catch a lot of northerns and muskies on them as well. So I'd throw them. Well, then I just one day ended up sticking like a 43 or something like that boat side figure 8 on a suic. And thing just came unglued, white water everywhere. And from that day on, that's all I wanted to do was, know everything inside and out about muskies and how to catch them and, how to be efficient at it. And I'm a person that once I, kind of say, hey, this is what I want to do, I dive all into it. I think most muskie guys are that way. But yeah, I every waking moment I could get on the water, that's what I did. I always just fished for fun, and I started, really picking it up, and then, get your electronics and start playing with that, and you start seeing why the fish are where they are and start learning. And I had a buddy that he actually asked me, well, why the heck do you do that? You go out, you catch 1 to 3 fish maybe, and what's the fun in that? So I said, well, why don't you just come with me? So sure thing, he comes out and he missed like 4 fish, both side fish baits, and he's just like, by the end of the day, just shaking in his eyes. You could just see the adrenaline's pumping through his veins, So it's like, well, there you go, buddy. And now he's got his own boat, his own rods, his own baits. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, we all got it. But yeah, the guide thing, getting into that, I worked at the paper mill in Rhinelander, and we ended up going to like a 12-hour swing shift. So I would get like 3 or 4 days off a week, any given week. Just gave me a little extra time to get out on the water. And, I figured as long as I'm out there, I might as well, be trying to, better myself or do something that I genuinely enjoy. And I actually had an old timer that I always fished with on Pelican Lake that he actually he ended up passing away. And he had always said, hey, you're really good at this. This is, you should, try to do this for a living kind of thing. And he was like, a couple months from retirement from the paper mill. So to me, that was like a wake up call. I don't spend my whole life doing something that doesn't make me happy, that just pays the bills. So I figured I would start guiding part time and see where it went. And I honestly thought that I would get, 5 to 10 people to come with me, and I was going to be happy with that. But it absolutely blew up, and I couldn't be more thankful for it. I'm doing what I love every day, and that's about the end of that. So,
yeah, that's awesome. What do you think you attribute the kind of, as you said, blow up to everything? This day and age, it seems it's interesting, watching Gus kind of go through starting out his guiding career and like getting clients and putting yourself out there. What do you think was a turning point for you, I guess, and blowing up, quote unquote?
Honestly, it's in the name of the guide service, Musky Guarantee Guide Service. That is, I attribute that to, I obviously, that's something I'm very good at. I enjoy figuring fish out, but hardly anybody, if no, or really nobody does that, guaranteeing a fish, especially musky fishing. I mean, they are, they're wild animals. There's no way you're going to, be able to say this is going to happen at this time, which, yeah, you can, get an estimated guess, but it was that. I caught a lot of slack for that, to be honest. There were people, sending me messages and whatever that, hey, you can't do this. There's no way you can do that. You're going to end up going broke and all that good stuff, which, okay, fine. That's, I'll take it on the chin. But eventually you start posting a fish picture every single day and people, the messages stop. People figure, well, hey, this guy actually is going out and he's doing what he said he was going to do. So that first year that I ran part-time trips, I ran, I think it was 48 trips. Yeah, it was 48 trips. And we had 4 trips that we did not put a fish in the net. Wow. So, I mean, that's pretty good odds. And that's not all small fish. I mean, that year we bagged 13 fish that were over 45 inches. So in northern Wisconsin, that's pretty damn good fishing, I'm very proud of that stat, but obviously there are days that the fish win. There's is that, I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, you're so did I get lucky? Probably. I don't know, but that's definitely what boosted my business. So
do you so I might have missed it. How many years are you going on now?
This will be my second year full time. Last year was my time, and I actually only did this 1 year part time. And then I actually, out of those 48 trips that I ran that first year, there was, a couple that were like 4 times the guy come with me, and then a girl came with 3 times. So, I mean, there were some, overlaps for that, but there were 36 total people, I think, that came out with me. And out of those 36, there were 32 returners. So to me, that showed me that, you were doing a good job. People enjoyed you. They enjoyed your company. They had a good time. Kind of made me feel like I could actually do it. And then once I started booking trips that winter, trying to fill up a schedule, pretty soon it got to the point that I didn't have any days off left, and people were still calling and saying, hey, I want to get out with you. I want to do this, whatever. So it was a really scary decision, but I figured, it's no better time than now to do it, so I just go right in, and whatever happens, so and it worked out. I mean, if you want to succeed at something that you want to do, you got to take a little risk.
So you had 48 fish, only 4 trips that didn't catch a fish, and then 13 over 45. That was your first year. What do you have the stats on last year?
No, I didn't keep track. Obviously, there were more trips that we did not put a fish in the net. There was only 1 trip. So I'll say right now, I actually had a guy that kind of ruined the guaranteed muskie in the net. Which I'll tell you that. So I do guarantee, just so that it covers a gray area, and I don't.
That was going to be my next question.
Wait,
yeah.
What was that? I think, did it cut out?
Covers the gray. Is it guaranteed action? You were saying kind of cut out a little bit.
Yeah, I do guaranteed
okay.
action. If you don't have action, then all I charge is the $100 deposit just to save the date.
Sure.
But yeah, to be honest with you, most people are like, yeah, you were great. Your equipment's good. You spend time with us. You try to teach us things. We learned a lot. This, that, and the other thing. I had a great time. So generally, they don't care if they caught a fish or not. You start to learn that that's not the most important part of it. I mean, people take one day with you to gather knowledge for the rest of their life.
Right.
They're not out there just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and one day. But heck, I had a guy that sat with me in a boat. He had a half-day trip. Sat with me in a boat for 3 hours out of his 4 hours or 5 hours, just wanted to talk and, ask questions, and basically one-on-one. What are you doing? How are you doing it? And then, and it was a new moon or something, full moon, new moon. And I was chomping at the bit, but that's what you want to do. And, we ended up, getting done. I was like, is that, what you want? He's like, I have learned so much in this time that, I feel like, I've gotten everything I wanted out of this trip. I said, well, you want to go fishing or what? And he's like, well, yeah, sure. So, and he ended up catching one then. So, I mean, it worked out way better than, it should have. But, yeah, it's not always about going out grinding and catching fish. Sometimes people just want to take that little bit of knowledge that you can give them and see what they can do with it.
Sure. You talked about a net mishap. What what went down there?
A net? Yeah.
Oh, I thought you alluded to there was like when you're talking about the gray area, because like when I first heard about your service, I was like, damn, that's ballsy, you know what I mean? But like solely just on the fact that you're, a lot of, because I understand kind of the fine print now, and it totally makes sense to me, and I agree with what you're saying. But with like the guarantee part, a lot of that is not up to you in a lot of capacity. I mean, you have the ability to put people on fish, but as just as well as we all do, like being right on top of a fish or having a fish come in hot or whatever, even having one hooked doesn't guarantee that it's going to end up, in your camera roll. So it's a tricky sport, and I'm sure that's probably was a little tough at first, kind of figuring that out.
Yeah. And I can tell you, for every fish picture that I post, there's 3 fish that got away. I that fairly. Heck, I had one guy dump 7 fish on top water that ate and whatever, and then he caught the last. He could have had
Are you not teaching them how to set the hook or what?
There's only so much you can do.
It is what it is, and I tell everybody flat out when they get in the boat, hey, you're gonna mess up. I don't care. It's all learning. It's all, it's part of the experience. And they still, even if they miss the fish, they're still shaking like a leaf. Yeah, you don't get the texture of it, but they got what they came for. But yeah. Back to the whole guarantee thing and how that got ruined. I had a half-day trip with 2 gentlemen, and the guy that was in the one spot in the front, he actually caught 2 fish, put 2 in the net, and I think we had like 9 follows that day. They caught 2, and they probably should have caught 2 others that, had they been experienced, they probably would have boated those fish. And we got back to the landing, and it was actually, it was a great trip. We had a really fun time, good conversation the whole day. Got back to the landing, and the one guy, he gave me his half of the cost, and he's like, "Oh man, I had a great time. This is awesome. His first muskie, that thing." And the other guy got in the truck. I was like, "Hey, you didn't pay your half." He's like, "Well, I didn't catch a fish." I'm like, "All right, well, see you later. I hope you have a good ride." What am I gonna do? Parking lot? So, no, it taught me a lesson. That's all. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so that was the story. Yeah, that would be tough, right? Like, you because if you don't musky fish all the time, and I think I was listening to a different video or something, like people that don't musky fish all the time, like all you do is you hear the stories, you see the pictures, and so your expectations naturally are like pretty high. And if you're not involved in the sport all the time, it's hard to realize that, like, hey, if you go out and catch like 1 fish a day, 2 fish a day, like that's an amazing day. So but anyways, let's dive into like a little bit of lake talk here, because it's always fun chatting with people that fish the northern range of Wisconsin. As you started kind of getting going, I guess, with fishing, were you typically fishing on stained bodies of water, shallow, or did you kind of diversify pretty quickly when you started to branch out?
So when I first started, I live, I grew up on Pelican Lake, so that's
Okay.
kind of in the early part of the year, and then it is one of those lakes that gets that green, tint to it. But that is a lake that has literally every kind of structure on it. You can fish rock bars, weed lines, open water, sand. You can fish literally every cribs. There's everything out there. So that was a good experience for me, coming up through being able to fish every part of the system. I did a lot of river fishing when I was younger. But for the most part, I'd tell you, I was a stained water guy. I really enjoyed that. Just because it was more action and, you had more learning opportunities. But I was definitely afraid of clear water when I first started. But, as I started branching out, I learned, just different ways of getting fish to go on clear water when they shouldn't be going. So that's something that I will never shy away from clear water ever again. The last probably 5-6 years, I've really been big into clear water. Certain times of the year, certain conditions, whatever. But I mean, there's been multiple days where it's sunshine, bluebird skies, and you're on clear water and you catch 3 fish. So there's obviously you got to get down in the strike zone a little bit, different presentations and whatnot, but you don't want to get them up to the boat in clear water. But definitely stained water is always a go-to when I was younger.
So I wanted to ask you, growing up on Pelican, I mean, I feel like back in the day it was kind of looked at as like, a muskie headquarter of the Northwoods, and it was pretty well known. And I've never fished it, but I've heard, contrasting points from people that it's gone to shit, or that it's still good, or that it's, just not as popular as it used to be. I mean, what's the status of the muskie population out there? If you're willing to get into the kind of fish on Pelican.
No, it's a great lake. There are many opportunities to catch fish in a day on Pelican Lake. There's your community spots that everybody and their brother knows about, but there are like those little nook and crannies that always hold a fish that you spend a little more time on those versus just fishing. I'm gonna fish this weed bed. That's a pretty general area, so if you hit like the little spots, you can definitely be more efficient on that. I mean, it is a 3,600 acre lake, so it's bigger water for what we're normally used to up here. But no, it's great fishing out there, and there are a lot of that like 35 to 42, 43 inch fish out there with the stocking that they've done. But definitely there are still some jumbo.
Was there like a Pelican Lake heyday, or why did it get its reputation originally? Were they stocking the hell out of it, 3 decades ago, or what was the deal?
Pelican Lake, it was actually before I was actually really into musky fishing. I was born in 1990, and that was about the time that Pelican was just a rockin' lake. There were big fish caught all the time out there, but then I believe that they actually stopped the stocking completely because there is a lot of natural reproduction out there, but it needs help just like every other body of water. And there was a point then where if you went and fished Pelican, you were fishing for one bite, one big fish. And most of the time you didn't see those smaller fish coming up through the system. They were all, 44 and up. I mean, there were some mondos, but a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to go out and chase, one bite for an entire day of fishing, Some people love it. I mean, I'm one of those people that if you want to go and chase a big bite, I'll go and get blanked. I don't care. But just for the chance at that, truly big fish. But now those fish are actually, they're coming up from the stocking and obviously natural reproduction as well, but which there are a lot of tigers and pelican too. That's a fun thing, but and they're just beautiful. But you get a lot of that, mid 30s to low 40s class fish out there. That's kind of your average.
That's pretty interesting. Like you hear that about lakes where, I mean, I think they've talked about it a lot on like in Minnesota waters with stocking and stuff and having it kind of go down or stop completely, where when you have that happen, you're saying Pelican, it turned into like a big fish place. Like those small fish just kind of didn't really exist. And I don't know if that's crazy. And I there's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of lakes up here that kind of have that where they all of a sudden have gaps, or you see only big fish, but not that many. And that's definitely interesting. So you probably play that into cards. Like if clients are asking if they want to go after like a big fish lake, would those be kind of like a lakes that you're looking for maybe? Or like, it's just only got big top end, or it's like a system that kind of has everything and some big fish?
That's all part of the question. So
Yeah.
I will say that I do cater trips to the client. If they want to go and chase one bite, I'm all about it. I'll try to put them on the best moon phase date I can. Obviously you can't pick the weather when you're booking out. But if we get a saucy day, I'll just say, I'll kind of nudge like, hey, today's the day. We could do something special if you want to go and try it. I had 2 kids that they were 14 years old, and we started on basically an action water, and they actually dumped 3 fish right off the bat. I mean, within the first hour, and it was so saucy out. It was right on full moon. It was like that second week of September when those fish start moving up shallow, and it just perfect timing. And I was like, hey guys, the fish are. I don't really want to play with rats anymore. You guys want to go and try to catch one? And they're like, yeah, man, whatever you think. So we jumped in the truck and we drove an hour north, hit a water that, I know there's big fish. And I said, hey, if we see one fish, that might be it, but it's going to be a doozy. It's like, I mean, they're born and then they're 45 in this lake. So, we went up there and within an hour, we ended up putting a 47 in the net, and they were hooting and hollering and having a great time. And we let the fish go, continued on, ended up catching a 49 and a half right after that. And
wow,
it was incredible. And so that was wild too. So the kid was actually trying to fight this fish and didn't really have a lot of experience fighting big fish. We couldn't even hold on to the rod, and the fish is on the other side of the boat thrashing them. And I'm like, you gotta get it, this way. And I mean, it was a mess, but it had a Medusa right down the gullet. It wasn't coming off, but man, that thing just put up a heck of a battle. But I mean, within another half an hour, they ended up dumping like a 46 then on a bucktail. So I had just an incredible night. But at the end of the trip, my buddy gets a kick out of this all the time, but at the end of the trip, I said, well, boys, what do you think about your first time muskie fishing? And they looked at me dead cold-eyed and said, well, I don't know. We catch like 40 bass every time we go.
Oh,
no.
Come on.
Yeah, I was, well, okay, fuck me, I guess. But
Yeah. Don't come back.
That's always my biggest fear is that, you get somebody on a lot of fish or a nice fish and they don't have the full appreciation. It's always like a little bit of a like, ah, shit, really? But it still feels good, obviously.
yeah, don't get me wrong. These kids were talking about making baits, whatever baits they were going to purchase, getting rods. I mean, they were jacked up, but it was just that one liner. I mean, that stuck with me. That was the first I did it, and man, I was just like, wow, you want to talk about a slap in the face? But no, they did have fun. I mean, they were pumped.
Yeah, that's a day for sure the year. That I don't know. That's that's just it's tough to beat that though. So you like to bounce around a good bit. If things aren't happening, you'll for sure pick up and go to a different lake on a given day.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's all kind of a gut feeling. This is actually something that I had in that seminar I did at the Wisconsin Muskie Expo, but there are, different lake types. I do try to, if I'm having success on one of those, whether it be the green or, a dark stain, whatever, I try to mimic that when I do jump lakes, or vice versa. If I'm not having success on that style body of water, I'll jump to something completely different and try to, because if you keep jumping around and doing the same thing, you're going to find the same kind of fish with the same mood, so that in mind when you're jumping. But there's certain lakes that I know that this spot will hold a fish. If I don't see one, whether it be a follow itself, side imaging, whatever it may be, if I don't see what I want, I'll get off that lake after that first spot, just because I know that if I'm fishing that spot on this moon with this wind, I will pick a fish out of there, or it's not happening. So that's where it's just kind of the luxury of being in northern Wisconsin. You have so many bodies of water to hit. So that's kind of what I've done throughout my years, and it's working out. So
yeah. And would you what was I gonna say? The question kind of alludes to like what you would think in your mind. Well, would you attest it to like, shoot, I'm drawing a blank. I had a good question for that.
I can ask a shitty question if you
No,
want to
no,
think of a good question. All right.
no, that's all right. I got it. So like if you're switching a lake, would you amount that to like you're saying your decision if you see something on a particular spot or like they should be here, something's not right. Would you, because I always, wonder this too as I'm kind of growing into building more lakes and data and stuff. Would you amount it to like just pretty much time on the water and knowledge of that lake, like from previous seasons and like we've caught them here, bait likes to stack up in here, or what would you kind of put that under? How would you make that assumption? And that's all right if the answer is just time on the water, because that's, definitely a big part of it.
Yeah. I guess kind of a way to answer that would be, yeah, it is. I mean, it is time on the water in a general sense, but a lot of it is lake specific as well. There's lakes that, I auto charted in the spring and went and fished, that day was the first day or second day I was on it. But just from doing your research and your homework on that water and having a general knowledge from time on the water of where fish should be, how they should be set up, where the bait fish is at on your graphs, where you're seeing them. That's kind of what I'm using. It doesn't necessarily be, just this lake. I've had so much experience on pelican that if the fish isn't right here, I'm jumping off. It's really for every lake, whether it's, one that I've fished hardly at all or one that I fish, religiously. So it's just an overall what you're looking for as far as, where the bait's set up, what the conditions are outside, whether it's sunny or overcast or windy or calm or whatever it may be, if the bait fish is up high, if they're low, if the bait fish is actually set up in those little interns or, those places where that fish should be. I mean, generally after you do your research on a lake, you should be able to pick out this spot, this spot, this spot should have a fish right here, based on this given wind or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm doing, if that answers what you're asking.
Yes, I don't know if I really asked it very well, to be honest. I just was trying to piece together something that, like, you hear a lot of people ask, like, when you hear from like us guides in the Northwoods, because we have the luxury to hop lakes, they always ask, like, well, when do you know when to hop lakes? And it's sometimes kind of difficult to answer because, like you kind of alluded to before, you said like you got like a sixth sense. You kind of just like have a feeling or a gut feeling. I'll get some of those too as well. And that just kind of develops over time, really, and it's easily for sure with looking at your electronics and knowing very well on if the bait's set up, like if they're loaded on the weed edge, fish should be snacking on the weed edge, or if the bait's high up and you're in like a deeper system, that's a very good sign too. So just like little things like that. And that's why, or that's actually another question I got. Do you take notes at all from your trips every year? Like detailed, not super detailed, or what do you like to do?
Oh, he's got a freaking steel trap memory if he's remembering when I was throwing from years back.
That's
Notes are in his brain.
I will tell you, I'm not saying I'm a rocket scientist, but I do have a very good memory when it comes to specific things. If I enjoy it, whether it's a trail camera picture of a big buck or, a muskie sighting, I remember every detail of that, what was happening. I mean, it's pretty, the physical phenom is out of here.
Yeah. You must have dang physical phenom and dude,
that's all right.
Sorry about that, Taylor.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely just I do, on your camera roll, obviously you take a picture, you can kind of the conditions, and like me, I'm very like photographic. So if I take a picture, I see that fish and I think, yeah, this is the kind of day it was. You can see the date right there. There was actually, I believe it was Brad Hoppy said something about, as far as, jotting down, literally take a picture with the fish and then take a picture of the graph. So you have a piece of information right there. And I was like, wow, that's freaking incredible. Like, I didn't even think of doing that, but it's so like, duh, why aren't you doing that kind of stuff? So yeah, that's definitely something that he had said that I thought, yeah, that guy's a genius. So that's very easy to document things that way if that's something that you want to do.
I definitely heard the same thing, and I think it was definitely on a backlash when Brad was, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, they're talking with Chase Gibson, I think. Because I think they both do it, or they both like learned it from each other. One or the other learned, and I was like, I should do that more. I mean, I usually take good notes in like an Excel spreadsheet. I didn't do super great at that last year, but just having like that extra picture, I started to do that a little bit more. Like specifically, I started doing that more towards like actually turnover time frame when I could see the water temp, which lake, and then looking at like 2D and seeing like how the thermocline is moving and stuff, just to kind of get an idea of ballpark. Okay, so the temps are this much on this lake that I like to fish in the fall. It's turning over, but then this other lake that I like, it's all good. So I've been using it like that, but I think that taking picture of your graph after a fish catch is actually really beneficial because um, I can probably speak for the whole muskie community. We do like to just scroll back on our camera roll and check out those fish pictures whenever we get a little bored and lonely at night.
Jeez.
Right.
What do you mean,
Yeah,
dog?
there's
I know you.
alternative options.
What do you? What are those?
I was kidding. Nah. Keep her moving. Keep her moving.
What was that? What was that question you had before, Max? That you said?
Oh, shitty
Dumb
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a load of them. I mean, if well, I guess if we're talking about just like going back on data from the previous year, as I'm sure like you probably witnessed from. I mean, obviously, growing up fishing a lot, year 1 to 2 guiding. I'm sure you've kind of continued to develop. Are there certain? I think I asked this to somebody else, like maybe a few podcasts ago. But is there like a certain time of year, like you mentioned the early September bite, but a certain time of year, throughout the muskie season that really gets you jacked up? That like you've had, and maybe a better way to ask it is like something that's not a typical like shallow September bite. Like, is there a certain week throughout the summer that like has done well for you for no reason at all, other than maybe some external factors that we're not aware of, that like you got circled on your calendar, like, hey, this summer, and I know I got to be on the water on this lake, come this week, something like that?
Not specifically, because I mean every year is different.
Sure.
But definitely, I mean, everybody says, September and fall, you got to be out there fishing. Some people don't even pick up a musky rod until September, which just blows my mind. But the end of June is probably my favorite time to catch a big fish.
Sure.
Actually, this one on the wall back here was a 52.5, and that was June.
Wow.
I've seen so many fish that like from like I'd say 24th to the end of June and that first week of July. Whether it's, usually you get that bug hatches happening right around that time, but it's like right after that, those fish seem to come right to the weed lines, and they're very accessible for, say that 2-week stretch. And
I agree with that.
Fish. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a very weird window where all of a sudden it feels like they do make a little bit of a push up shallow just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And because Gus, I mean, thinking back, I think that time frame seems to always produce
Always
a big
good.
fish for us. Now that I think about it, like always when we're going up for the 4th of July or something, even growing up, felt like that week prior is always a good, between your birthday weekend and like the 4th, we've always encountered some big fish.
I would have to agree. I mean, I think last year it got a little bit pushed back, at least for the lakes that I was on. It felt like pushed back a week. I think like last year, July 4th to the 10th was outstanding. Then the year prior was like the last week of June was almost like that same pattern. It just shifted like a week or something like that. And I fully agree that push back, yeah, I don't think everybody fully appreciates that bite right there as a really solid one for action too, I would say.
Not only are you, at chance at a legitimate, I mean, hog, but definitely, I mean, all those fish they're just pretty much fresh off a spawn. They're all recovered. They're all doing their thing. They're getting fat and happy. And that's like the time that I feel like those fish are, very predictable. The first time that they're very predictable throughout our season up here, so.
Maybe before we get into some like presentations for this time, because we might as well talk about this. I mean, it's maybe not the first time that people fish because we got opener, but like it's a solid time that's coming up actually, shorter than people think. But let's if you want to, would you want to share the story on that 52.5 hanging behind you caught on that time of year? It would be great to hear that.
That was honestly, that was a time that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I got that fish. Um, it was just throwing a 9-inch Suic, and it just, I mean, it crushed it. It basically, my whole world stopped, and I set the hook and it didn't move, and then I got like one head shake out of the thing and came in and right up and got her in. So I mean, there's a whole lot to it. I mean, I will tell you, I got lucky on that one.
That's
Right
incredible.
place, right time.
Yeah, and so there was actually probably 2 weeks after I caught that fish, I actually lost one, and this was on pelican that I know was bigger than that fish.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
it was on Buick. But that one, I think I cried a little bit. I had a guy that he had never musky fished before. He was actually dating my cousin, and he asked if he out, and I said, "Well, yeah, sure, jump in the boat." And um, we were on Pelican, and we were just making a move down the weed line, and that's right at that time when the big fish are right on that break and right on the weeds and very predictable. And we ended up catching like a 34 or something like that, and ended up coming right back through, hit that exact same stretch, and then had that one on the line probably 10 minutes after we stuck that other fish, and again with the moon window or with the bite windows. But yeah, she ate it. I set the hook, and she ended up getting wrapped up, and all you seen was a tail come out of the water like the size of a beluga whale, and she rolled up and ended up spitting the hook out. And I was pretty upset. I said some choice words, and he's like, "Was that a muskie, man?" And I'm like, "No, it was a freaking alligator. What do you think that was?"
Shark.
Yeah.
I think we're fishing for here. Yeah.
That's
Did you know about the big one you caught and the big one that you lost beforehand? Like, have you previously moved them, or did they just come out of nowhere?
The big one that I caught, we actually saw that fish. We knew that fish was there. But the other one, no, I had no idea. That was just fishing a spot that always holds fish that time of year, and there's always bait there. There's always muskies there. It's my favorite spot on Pelican, to be honest. But yeah, that one we had no idea that one was there.
The big one that you did catch, when did you move it? Like, when did you first see it compared to when you caught it?
About 3 hours before that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's good to know too, though, because we move a lot of fish. And we're like, all right, let's leave the spot, come back, and we'll re-tag it from a different angle, and then it's just vanished. So you just never know if they're gonna show their face again or what. Do you typically go back and like downsize or anything?
So I will tell you that I learned something just from. So I had a fish eat a sucker. I think this was 2 years ago in October, like the beginning of October. That fish ate on a main lake hump, 8, 12 foot, whatever it was. Took that sucker and, I mean, just peeled to the other side. I mean, I literally chased that. I had a GoPro running, chased that fish for 7.5 minutes straight. So I could go, and then she finally stopped. But she was on the complete opposite side of the lake where she took that bait and was just gone. So to me, I was always under the understanding that if you raise a fish, you get off of them, come back, stick them right on the waypoint, which that does happen. Don't get me wrong, that happens more often than not, and I will always try it. But those fish that you think are there, if you move that fish, if they've, done it before, seen the program before, odds are they booger out, and you're never going to see that fish in that spot again. That's something that, I mean, they're very unpredictable in that way.
Yeah.
It's something that's always, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, and it's something I've talked about with Gus and Brian a bunch internally. It's like the behavior of the bigger fish, and they set up on these like amazing spots. And, what's the true window of your ability to actually catch them? How long do they stay there? Do they frequent multiple different feeding spots and then return back to, either like an open water or like an inaccessible area? I've always wondered that, like, because it's been across the board for us. Like, we've seen a fish in a spot, weeks, even months prior, and have eventually caught the fish that, we're assuming is the same fish. And then again, like you were saying, we've moved really, really big fish on a certain lake. We've gone back time and time again and have never seen that fish again. So it's like, I always wonder if they're just to each their own kind of thing, or if there's an actual, pattern there. I think I agree with you that it's just totally unpredictable, but it's fun to at least try to guess.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you just said as far as it's like fish by fish basis. Because I mean there are, and it's a specific time frame or water temp, when those fish actually do stick around. Like early season, you could have a fish in 3 foot of water, for 2 days, and that's the time frame you have to catch that fish. And then it's gone. Where you get to midsummer, summer peak kicks in, everything is kind of stable. I believe that fish will hang out in that spot for a longer duration of time. But definitely as the seasons change, you have, different movements, but certain fish, like there was one that I had raised that I know she was, 40, I'd say 49, because I don't say 50 a lot, but she was on the exact same spot for probably a month straight. And the only thing that I could get her to move on was Joe Booker's super top rater. That was the only that fish would follow. She would come right up to the boat, and I would see the biggest swirl I've ever seen, and she was gone. It's like, deja vu all over again, constantly. I went back at night, I went back on moon phases, and through everything that I could think, big, small, we like them all. But yeah, it was ridiculous. And I actually never ended up catching that fish, but I saw her probably, I'd say 7 different times, and the exact same same.
That's
I mean, we have almost an identical story outside of like the specific bait thing, but like this one fish completely drove all of us insane. And it was on a lake that we, didn't really have much previous history on. We go there, and I think the first time we were there, I was throwing a Naven or something like that. And it tried to eat it, swung and missed, full gill plate opened up. And I look at Gus and I was like, dude, that's the biggest fish I've seen this year. And it had these we were in shallow water. And the craziest thing was, it's like, it's in this weed bed, and there's like one particular circle where the weeds just kind of come up a little bit more concentrated. And this fish had like the brightest orange fins. These fins were so different than any other muskie I've seen. And I go, Gus, this fish was massive. And I literally told him, I was like, it just had the weirdest fins, like bright orange fins. And he's like, oh, that is weird or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I mean, we were guessing.
I didn't get to see it right away.
He didn't get to see it. So, he probably thinks I'm just overreacting I typically do, and saying, oh, it was a giant, whatever. But it was big ass fish. And so
it's big.
Like literally, I think, we moved it again that day, and then they went back a few days later, then they got to see it. I don't know if Gus, you want to pick up on the story, but
yeah, I think we probably told it in that week's like report or update last year, but I went out with our dad, and I think it was like glass calm, and I was twitching a 7-inch slammer, I think, and one of my last twitches before, bringing it around in the 8, that thing just like shot up and like gave it a big mouth at it. And I was like, it took my breath away. And I'm like, because I'm sitting on the waypoint from the inside of this weed bed, the exact same angle where Max moved it. We've never moved this fish from the other angle. Like that's another thing. We could only move it from inside out on this weed bed.
And it wasn't a big weed bed. We're talking, what do you think, Gus? 40 yards by 40 yards. I mean, tiny,
smaller,
20 yards by 20 yards, like just a circle.
Maybe even it was freaking tiny. You could get it done in a couple casts basically. But apparently if you weren't on the inside, like she wouldn't move. But after that, I saw which way she went. And I'm like, Dad, chuck it out there. He had a rabid squirrel on. So just a single 8 bucktail. And I'm like, just scream that thing in. And he casted back at an angle to the back of the boat because that's where she went. So his bucktail was kind of coming across the boat so I could see it. And that thing was within a foot of it and just smoking hot. And I don't know if our dad has ever had a fish that big in the 8 ever. And in the video, I can't really show the video. It shows the spot, but like in the video, you hear him just do the first turn and the fish does that like explosion tail kick where like, the fish is there, but it turns the tail and the water just goes whoosh. Dad literally, like, you could see him like jump up a little bit and go, oh my God. And that fish was every fraction of an inch over 49. or more,
Oh,
built like a freaking railroad tie. Just
oh,
And it
Yeah.
had the orange fins. And then when we were there
Yes.
a week later, Brian caught a fish. Brian catches a fish as we're releasing it. I take my next cast, and that same fucker porpoises. And I only knew it was him because the tail comes out of the water. I'm like, there he is. It's the orange fin fish. It literally was the brightest orange fin. I'm like, that's him. He's on the same freaking weed bed for weeks. And we only tell him the story because after that day, never seen him again. Have visited that same week. He's never been there. He was there for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and has just never come back.
Taylor, I wanted to ask you when Max had brought up porpoising there. I was gonna say, like, when we get a follow and then we'll go back on it, like it's happened to us a lot where, within 50 yards while we go back on that fish, we'll see one porpoise somewhere. It's the weirdest thing, and those fish, I don't know if we've ever gotten one of the porpoising fish to eat, but do you have any stories of porpoising muskies that you've caught or I mean anything?
Yeah, actually, a little secret on porpoising fish. Throw a little bastard. They
Oh, really?
absolutely crush them things.
Okay, that's good to
Dang,
know.
we gotta buy one of those. I do not own a
Because
little
we've like
bastard.
turned the trolling motor at these porpoising fish, and then you'll never see him again. We're like, oh, he's just saying "fuck you."
And a lot of times you're not going to catch that fish, but there have been multiple times where if I see a porpoising fish, I have one rod set up. I mean, you have to have basically a bass rod for that lure, but set up with that bait on it. It's ready to rock. Unhook it and chuck it. We actually had it was just a little friendly tournament, between among a bunch of guys or whatnot. But we won that little tournament with that little bastard, and we actually come up to a spot. We were hauling up a channel, and we saw a tail fin come out. I told my buddy because he actually raised one on that little bastard earlier in the day, and the fish bugged out right away. So then I pitched a suic back and caught the fish. So then I said, well, here, throw it. You gave me an assist. Here's yours. And he pitched it up in the front of the boat, and that fish come hot on it and ate it right in the figure eight, right boat side. That was the winning fish of that. But no, it's just a nice little bait that it's just really subtle. It's like a little treat. And I mean, I don't really know for sure scientific what they're doing, whether it's digesting or figuring out their air bladder or whatever they're doing when they're porpoising. But that's showing off, giving a bird. But it's just something that's little. It's like a little snack for them. So it's not, I don't know what it is about that little bait, but it's caught more porpoising fish than anything else.
It's the little bastard version, not the fat bastard.
No, the little bass, the little tiny, like it's like 2 inches long.
Okay, is that similar to like the night walker?
Like a whopper plopper.
Yeah, it's like a bass bait. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Interesting. I mean, that makes sense. We're probably gonna have to add that to our arsenal because, as Max and Brian know, one of our favorite castbacks lures is a Meps. A small little like single bladed Meps has been our go-to if casting back with blades is like the key to go, like downsizing a blade. So topwater, definitely something. Yeah, I don't know. We definitely got to add that.
That's a cool trick.
Cool, neat little trick that I didn't know of at all. That's
real. So you mentioned a friendly tournament. I just was curious. Have you done much competitive musky fishing?
Every day.
Yeah,
it's a battle.
No,
it's a good answer. It's true.
Yeah, I really don't get into the tournaments a whole lot. Just for the fact that I like enjoying my time on the water. I fished the last 2 years. I did the Hodag Musky Challenge out of Rhinelander. There's just whatever there is, 8 different lake groups or something like that. And we've caught a fish. Both years that we've done it, but we have been in the mud. We've been like 14th or whatever, but had some mishaps with battery issues and things like that. But it is fun. It definitely amps up the whole thing. The fight of the fish. Netting the fish once you get it in the bag. You guys did great in the PMT. That's awesome. But when you get a fish in the net in a tournament setting, it doesn't matter if it's a 34, which was legal in that tournament, or a freaking 54. It does not matter. You're jazzed up, you're high five, and you're like a little kid. So that's an added, kind of bonus to the tournament fishing. But for me, I'd rather go out and be, one of 3 boats on a 4-acre lake than, one of 50. So
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. That's what a lot of people say when they talk about tournament fishing, because like it kind of does suck. And the one part that's, I shouldn't say sucks. It stinks when we go places. It's just like we have to fish there during that time frame and that weather, and
So do 70 other boats.
so do 70 other boats and probably 10 people per spot. So that aspect of it is a little tough. But yes, catching a fish during one is unmatched, I would say. I think maybe before we pivot too hard, I kind of wanted to go back to that late June time frame and kind of go over some patterns. So you got that big one on a Suic, a 9-inch Suic. Maybe some other options that you like to throw, like maybe what are some typical blades you throw? Because that's, at least for me, I know that time frame. That's a great blade time. But what are some other like change up presentations that you like to do in late June when they're set up on weed lines?
I'm not a blade person, to be honest with you. I mean, there are certain times that I will pick up a blade and say, yes, this is it. This is what's going to do it. Whether that be, windy days, overcast, low light conditions, that sort of thing. Or, even like screaming a small blade, really pretty much. But for the most part, I throw a lot of like smaller rubber, whether that be, mini or mid-sized Medusas, regular Pro Dogs. I don't like the other ones. The Pro Dogs are where it's at for me, but and really, really snapping them things, getting them hopping. You can actually get them, moving side to side. That's something that for me, I mean, you could fish rubber all you want and never get a bite if you're not doing what you should be doing with it. But um, that rubber bite is huge for me. Definitely gliders. Not a lot of people in the Northwoods are throwing glide baits, and I really don't understand why. You can get a glide bait whether you want it a foot off the surface, right over top the weeds, or you can get it down, 6 feet or 7 feet if you want to as well. It's just a little bit slower way of working a bait. A lot of people get into that rhythm of, twitch, 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 and that's not what you want. Even though you're giving it pauses and letting it sink down, you still got to get it snappy and get it twitchy. Just to trigger strikes. But the Suics are great for me. The SRJ Pandemonium, that's absolutely incredible. I actually stuck 3 fish behind a Suic on that SRJ. Whether it's just that little bit of wobble or the slower hang time, that can be, which just dependent on the day. And I am a big Suic advocate, but that thing has its time to shine. Actually, spinner baits is another one. I'll actually throw a spinner bait over an inline bucktail just for the fact that you get, like, especially with that single Colorado. I like those drop tine tackle spinner baits.
Growlers.
Yeah, yep.
Those I
Them
just
things put a
picked up
lot.
a few.
Yeah, they'll do you well. They definitely caught a lot of fish for us. But yeah,
Nice.
that's a lot of it. I don't throw a lot of twitch baits. That's something that I probably should try to do. I mean, they do catch fish, but if I'm gonna throw something like that, I'd throw the SRJ. It's kind of got that same, twitchy, wobbly, side to side, that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't know. That's what works for me.
Yeah, that's I mean I know recently I watched a Matt Vavrock video of you fishing down in Iowa, and you definitely displayed how you fish rubber. I think you caught one on like a Medusa and a video or something like that, and you were snapping it pretty good, like a lot of quick pops. And I think that's definitely important for that time of year. The water's warm. The fish, unless there's some gnarly weather system come in, like the fish want to eat, they want to chase. Water's warm. They want that bait moving fast. It's almost like if you have a bait moving too slow or you have it too methodical, you're just going to hypnotize them, or they're just going to be like meh, and they're not going to fire up their instincts. So I definitely would agree on like the small to medium sized rubber for that time of year. Reg Dog has been very, very good to us as well.
Did you say mini Medusa?
Yep.
We don't
Interesting.
throw it enough. We do not throw that one enough at all.
Yeah.
Is that what I caught mine on opener 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever threw it again.
No, we haven't.
Those little minis, them catch a lot of fish. And don't think that just because it's small, you're not going to catch a big fish on it. I mean, I've stuck 45s on those little minis, and that can be even in July or August. But as far as a bait that you can snap really hard through that, like, I mean, cabbage coming up, a foot from the surface, if you throw a regular Medusa in there, you're going to come back with cabbage all over your bait. But that little mini, you can actually see it, the entire way, kind of hopping through those weeds, and you can guide it around and really get that thing erratic through that stuff. And when you do, hit into them weeds, you can just see the weed, rip through and pop up, on the back side of your cast, and that bait just comes right through clean. That's a good little tool that you should really put in the arsenal.
I think I might order one tonight. Get a new colorway for opener. That sounds pretty tasty.
Not a bad idea. We only got like 2 pretty blah colors, so
yeah.
I think
those are your favorite, Gus. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's right. Those are my favorite.
Gus was making fun. Man, Gus was making fun of you for throwing that little mini Medusa, but now I'm starting to see the vision here, because, like, I mean, if you think about the forage,
matches the hatch.
Some of those size perch, in our neck of the woods, like, not all of them are 9-10 inch perch. A lot of them are just those 4 or 5 inches.
Doesn't make sense for us to throw like a 5 or 6 inch crankbait and be like, all right, I'm gonna toss a Mag Dog or a Reg Dusa. That's gonna totally match exactly what I was just throwing. So that makes sense. And you answered my question. I was gonna ask, actually, like, with the mini Medusa, 2 things. Do you think it hops around and gets through weeds easier than the bigger ones? And 2, is it easier, harder to rip through weeds, do you think, than the bigger ones?
It's so much easier. You can snap the thing around. I kind of downsized the rod a little bit on it. You get the feel in the tip, but for the most part, it doesn't sink as fast, or whatever. But the small ones, you can get to walk more than the big ones. The big ones just kind of do the up and up. Yeah, drop head first, and that's great. But those little ones from the minis, you can really make them things dart around and hop. And I think that's what gets bit more often than not, is that actual darting action, because it's creating that angle for that fish to headhunt that bait, versus that fish is behind it just going the entire time. And that's, I believe, why you get a lot of follows, is people are just, whether it's straight retrieve or whatever, they're getting that bait, straight to them, versus changing the angle, or getting that, like a suic, you can get to turn out sideways, or a rubber bait, you get to hop sideways. That little difference creates that angle for that fish to actually have an opportunity to eat that bait how it wants to.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like, how I'll try and tune a crankbait or get a quick crankbait to run, say if I'm switching around hooks, is pretty much so that if you're slackline twitching it, it's almost doing what a glide does. It'll just kind of sit there sideways for a little bit of it if you get the timing right, or whatever you want to call it, or the rod movement and everything like that. So definitely makes sense. We'll have to we'll have to bring back the mini Medusa to our arsenal for midsummer.
Yeah, I'm gonna order one right now. I already got my color picked out.
Hey, whoa, which one, dog? We already have a black and orange, so don't make black and orange.
No, this is kind of a good mix of it all right here.
Of course.
Oh, we got some live update of, dang,
it's got a little bit of your turd color in it.
a little
White
turd,
tails.
little orange.
Taylor, what's your thoughts on that color right there?
All I know is that if it's gold, the muskies will fold. That's what you need.
All right,
We do have a
look
gold
out
one.
for it.
Get another gold one, Brad.
Oh, that.
Oh,
It could do it.
I think
There we go.
I think that'll do it.
I could do it.
Hey, man, you don't have to throw it, Max. I mean, I know you had your same. Now we're talking.
Ooh,
Now we're
that's
talking.
better. That's better. This is good podcasting right here. Just showing pictures of stuff
Nobody
that
knows
we'll
what
never
we're
be able to
talking
see.
about.
For those wondering, Brian is scrolling TRO website of all the amazing colors and just flashing them on the screen.
All right, enough of that. I placed it. We're good.
All right. Well, we're on the bait topic. So is there anything new for 2024 that you've picked up? Any colors, any certain style baits that you're excited to add to the arsenal for this year?
So the first one is not new to me, but it's new to a lot of people. That's that Conklin, the pedigree. That thing is absolutely incredible. And I actually just had a guy the other day. He was down at one of the rivers, and he had picked one up at the show, and he was all excited about it. But he's like, this thing runs like crap. But he was overworking it. That's one bait that you can really overwork that lure. Just simple little tiny taps of the rod is what you need on those Conklins, and they catch fish. I mean, I tell this story a bunch of times, but I literally got the first one in my mailbox in 25 minutes. I'm holding a muskie, and I mean that's 15 minutes of drive time. I was pumped about that one, so that's definitely one that's in the arsenal. The Bam Bam Bait Company, they're Bullfin Junior. I'm very, very excited about that. He actually just posted 2 megas on that from out east or whatever. So I'm pretty excited to throw that thing around. He is a great dude. I was really happy to meet him. And then the Rusty's Customs, the 6 sucker, I picked up a couple of those, and I am beyond pumped to throw those as well. So we shall see what they come up with, but otherwise, no, that's about it. Otherwise, it's all tried and trues, and you know what you throw, and that's about it. What about you guys? You guys got anything?
Got the
How much time you got?
Yeah.
Huh?
Which show do we want to start with?
No.
I'm just kidding. We got the Conklin pedigree too. I really enjoyed working that down in Iowa this last week. And, you know, I was bummed that a fish didn't go on that as opposed to the Phantom, which we got into last week. That was pretty funny when we talked about that. But Tom's Super Glide got another glide bait. I freaking love the hang of that thing.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be a time and place, or I might just dedicate a day or two to just like really learning it. I mean, I'm just trying to overall learn glide baits better. I lack in that department. That Iowa fish was, I don't have very many glide bait fish under my belt, so that was another confidence booster for myself. I'm hoping Max and I can get on a glider bite and cave run because it's, you know, known for that with the shad base, but excited to run it up here. We got some Bam Bams. We got some of the big Bam Bam bowfins, some of the deep ones as well. I kind of stocked up pretty much with a lot because I figured if he's not gonna like make them all the time and only keep them onto his Facebook private group where you have to be like on Facebook within 30 seconds of his post, I'm like, I don't care if I'm dropping a lot of money. I'm just buying a lot right now because
Yeah.
he might not have any in stock at any given moment. So I really enjoyed throwing those in Iowa. I kind of touched on it last podcast. That's gonna do some damage. I was telling these guys, I could be wrong. These guys are catching them down in, you know, the eastern states and southern states right now, and it's pretty cold water. But maybe I wasn't just working it right. But I think it. When I was working it faster, I really like the action. I think it's gonna. That's how it's gonna strive, or it's how it's gonna, you know, catch fish for me at least. But I couldn't find a way to work it like super slow. I mean, he does make them pretty heavy in the head, but yes, that I'm excited about.
I'm
Got
excited
some
to
of
throw
our
Mini Medusa.
mini Medusa. Yeah, I got some of our
Just
buddies
got
Nick's,
2 of them.
our buddy, yeah. Dude,
But,
what? Did you check my text?
What? No, I didn't.
You actually placed the order?
Yeah, why would you say?
Oh, dude. That's all right. That's all right.
Oh, no, it's fine. They're
You guys-
cheap.
True.
put one of the 1 ounce deep threat weights on there as well. Even on the
Yeah.
minis, definitely good thing. I mean, you're not getting that bait down deep, but you can snap it and it drops that head quicker, and that gets that hop to go really, really well.
Dude,
Yeah.
you're speaking my language right now. Gus, who texted you a very similar thing about a month ago?
Me.
I know exactly what you're talking. Brian, shut up. That was not you, dog. You didn't even know that mini Medusa existed anymore until now. You did, Max, and I liked that idea the minute you told me, and I'm glad we wrote it down because I probably would have forgot. My memory is probably it's definitely not as good as Taylor's. I gotta write
Well,
stuff
now
down.
we got Taylor's blessing too off of that idea. So now I'm extra excited to throw some mini deuces this year.
Yeah, because that's another bait you can kind of overwork. Like you can yank those things out of the water sometimes if you have like too big of a setup or overwork it. So the heavy head is very, very smart.
Yes.
Have you
Taylor,
done?
Oh,
Go ahead, Brent.
I have a question for you revolving around what new baits we got. I feel like this is right up your alley. I'm curious if you've thrown it, but I did grab a 12-inch bobby bait. Have you used those in your dive and rise arsenal?
Nope. I'm a suic guy. If I'm throwing dive and rise, it's gonna be an SRJ. That 12-inch suic, you get into like whatever that, September time, October time, that thing's deadly. And I throw what I know, and that suic has caught more fish for me than probably any other bait that I've thrown in my lifetime. But the bobbies are great baits. I think a lot of people are one or the other, and I'm definitely the other.
We Gus is a pretty big suic advocate himself, and he throws it a lot, and really that's one of our main dive and rises, but we haven't really thrown much of the bobby, so I'm just curious as to its change of pace in contrast to the Suic, and we'll see. If I catch one on, I'll send you a pic. Tell you better get one.
I was gonna say you got no blessing from Taylor in that one. So it's all on you,
It ain't
physical
gonna work.
It's all on you, physical phenom. You're gonna have to get her done yourself, man.
So, hey, real quick, Taylor. So when you're throwing these Suics, are you, I guess if you get a new one, how are you kind of tuning it? And then do you have any kind of tried and true ones that have stayed in your box for years that kind of look all shredded and beat up?
Any suic that works, I cannot keep for more than a year because it looks like basically you took a sawzall to it. But no, basically right out of the package, a lot of people over tune them. Get it out of the package. Usually, the best way to do it is to put the tail on a flat surface and just very, very, minute, bend that bait just down just a little bit. I mean, it's not much of an angle at all, just to barely get that bait to go. Sometimes you have to turn the eyelet, the nose. Sometimes you got to skew the tail just a little bit sideways one way or the other. And then the front hook hanger can actually affect them as well. But if you turn like a 180 on the front hook hanger, that can get those baits to run right as well. The weighted ones are easier to tune. The unweighted ones, there are some that, even for somebody that's done it a long time, they can still be a pain in the butt sometimes. But I actually prefer the unweighted ones most of the year for, kind of the fishing that I'm doing. But yeah, they can be finicky. But once you get one that runs well, and then, obviously you get the scarring in it, and then it starts soaking up water, then they get better as they age. So,
Yes.
but yeah, if you can get one that, kind of glides down and turns sideways, and that's a keeper.
I think that's probably one of the reasons why the Suic has had so much staying power over the years, because it does get better, kind of as the season progresses. The more you throw it, like you're talking about, you get a little water in there, you get some scars. I mean, one of our best Suics was one that fell out of Gus's boat going about 75 miles an hour on the highway.
Yep. Yeah.
That's no shit. Literally, I mean, we haven't told the story, but yeah, we were driving to a lake with no service, and Gus forgot this is back when we had pails. We were hanging all of our baits on, plastic buckets, and
You just
he'd left
saw them in just to put like where the hooks go. Saw the slots.
He had left it in his boat, and I was driving behind him because I had to meet him at the lake later. I was working that day, and he was with his buddies. Brian was in the car, and I'm driving behind him, and they hit this little bump, and all of a sudden I see this plastic bait bucket shoot up about 10 feet in the air and just hits the highway going about 70 miles an hour, and about $400 worth of baits just go. And I'm trying to honk my horn, trying to call them. There's no service. I'm like, all of our musky lures are laying over the highway. And yeah, sure as shit, you know, I flagged him down. Eventually we turned around, we started picking them all up, and that suic had a big chip right in the middle of it. Must have landed, you know, funny. I'm like, damn it, I was really looking forward to using this. I think it was a new suic too. And
Probably.
I strapped it on that day, and I'm like, oh my God, this is working amazing. It's starting back forward. I was like, holy crap. So it's a good testament to suics. I guess they can blow up on the highway and get better.
They say to drag them behind the car with the string attached.
There you go.
That could do it, honestly.
We got to do that with the husky Medusas too. Those fuckers don't want to move in the water.
You're not ripping them hard enough.
Yeah.
Something.
Physical phenom apparently can't even rip a husky Medusa.
Oh, that's funny.
Do you boil the tails, Taylor? Anything?
Some of them run fine on their own. They're kind of weird, you know. Sometimes they get a little stiff or whatever. You get like a weird bend in them if they came in the packaging a weird way. Then ones I'll boil just to get to run a little bit better. But for the most part, you don't really have to. But
I'm not like a chemist at all, but some people have told me that like certain colors like don't adhere better. Some colors aren't as soft or something like that. Have you ever heard that before? Or am I just speaking random BS?
I couldn't talk on any of that. I don't know nothing about it.
I don't know either.
If it's gold, it pull. What was the saying? If it's gold, it.
If it's gold, the muskies will fold.
There we go. I love it. So
That's
gold is
good.
one of your favorite like rubber colors, probably.
Probably everything. I throw more natural than anything else. There are weird times where, like, especially clear water, I'll just grab a yellow, you know, or something crazy and throw that and catch fish on it. But for the most part, you know, black, white, gold, that's perch. That's a big part of everything I do. I don't get too crazy. I hate black and orange. I will say that. Just fact that everyone and their brother in the Northwoods is throwing black and orange something, or but I try to stay away from that. But
Yeah, I mean, at least myself, I overall like black and green or black and chartreuse better than black and orange because you are right. Everybody, like, I see a lot of people throwing black and orange, especially black bodied bucktails with orange blades is like numero
yeah,
uno on clear water, dirty water. It doesn't matter. You always see somebody throwing that.
yeah. For me, blades, I am old school. I stick with the tried and true. It's purple and gold. That is the best blade combination that I've found. I don't know if the purple actually shows up somewhat like a black. So whether it's black nickel,
Yeah.
black gold, that kind of thing, I love that.
Yeah, that I don't know exactly why. I wish I'd know why purple and gold is so good because we have a couple bucktails of that color, even some rubber baits that are black and purple with a lot of purple in it that are pretty good. So I don't know. And I mean, I think people sometimes don't realize how much gold is in a perch and how much black is in a perch. Like everyone thinks it's just green and orange, but perch are very, very gold. The stripes are black. The top of them are black. They only have like tiny little, orange around their fins and like a pearl white belly. So
Right.
gold, I agree, is probably if you're not throwing gold up here, you're definitely missing out for sure.
Right. I always personally looked at it as any fish that you catch, whether bluegill, a crappie, a walleye, or a sucker, when you're reeling it up, if it flashes gold. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what it's got gold in it. So to me, you can never go wrong, whether it's overcast, sunny, clear water, stained water, a gold bait is gonna work.
Gotcha.
Have
So,
you
go
go ahead,
ahead,
Max.
Brian. I was just gonna. I mean, I was gonna kind of pivot a little bit and just ask Taylor. You know, moving forward into this year, you know, is there some things that you're looking forward to in 2024? Guide trips, any new lakes that you got your eye on that you're gonna do a little bit of exploring? I guess anything that you're kind of excited about for the season.
I'm actually really excited about. I got something going on tomorrow. I'm not gonna bring that up just yet, but I'm pretty pumped about it. But I got a few lakes that I actually did. I went out and auto chartered them last spring, and actually never had time to actually go and physically fish them myself. I'm never gonna do a guide trip, on a lake that I've never fished before. So I would like to get on those waters and try them out and see what they're all about. Obviously, I think that they have some potential. I usually do. Well, that Iowa trip coming up, that's pretty exciting. We absolutely crushed them down there last year. Just the timing of it. We're probably going to be right on that same timing again. That's an exciting trip to do before we can actually chase them up here. And then Green Bay, I usually do that for the opener. Just my personal fishing, having fun with buddies. That's kind of my one weekend that I have to go and try to chase an absolute mega. That's always exciting. I'll cast for days on end, just for that one bite. But
Sure.
otherwise, I mean, that's really all I got for new stuff or exciting stuff. But I usually try to do probably like six to 10 new lakes a year, auto charting, and trying to find new waters and that sort of thing. So that's always exciting. I genuinely enjoy going and breaking down new water, but it's just a matter of getting the time to go and fish them when you don't have clients in the boat.
Right.
Did you have something
I-
before, Brian?
Yeah, we've asked a few different people this that we've had on the pod, but we're always curious about bait mods. Wondering if you've changed up baits in any way, added blades, added tails, any specific baits, and they've been red hot. You gotten creative with anything?
All the time. A lot of time, bucktails is a big thing. I add weights to a lot of bucktails, whether it be to get it down or to add a different vibration to it. If you put a weight, towards the front of the blade, more towards the blade, it'll actually, I mean, really wobble. That can be something that, I mean, nobody else is doing that. All the weights are set back, towards a treble hook on most, factory bucktails or that kind of thing. But just something a little bit different. Adding blades to rubber baits. I do like those little mini Medusas. You're probably gonna buy a couple more now, but I put a blade through the top and then suck it back into the body of the bait, and then you have basically a Healy dog on a Medusa. I do that.
Okay.
I love the
Damn.
both. So,
Oh
yeah,
boy.
yeah, little twister tails, just flashy stuff for here and there. But in the end, it all comes down to what you're confident in or what you think is gonna get a bite. I mean, you fish those baits better than you'd fish something that you don't have any confidence in. So
Preach.
Do you like throwing trailer grubs on your spinner baits or no grubs? Or is that just kind of mix and match?
I don't do a lot of grubs. Occasionally I will, but for the most part, I feel like you get so many nippers that way. I don't want that. I want them
Sure.
to come after yourself. I mean, you got one hook to begin with on spinner baits and stuff, so you want them to get that hook versus that trailer. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I feel like dunk dunk dunk, as you're reeling in the bait, and here's a 40-incher coming in behind it, and you don't have a twister tail on it anymore. So I kind of shy away from that a little bit now.
That makes sense. Yeah. Here, I really don't use a lot of grubs either, and I know a lot of people put them on like their bucktails too. I honestly don't really do that a whole lot. And didn't you, Max, have one that I made with like a jumbo, like 8-inch grub, rip it off at
Yeah.
one time, and it was
Yeah.
hot on it, but it ripped it
I
off.
I probably would have caught that fish had there not been a grub on there.
That's
think.
that's
Pretty
crazy.
convinced about that.
Because I gave that one a very small like bucktail skirt, but then it had like a jumbo 8-inch Magambo grub on it. So it was just like one of those wild, I don't know, one of the wild things I was testing. And that, yeah, when that happened to you, I never wanted to put another grub back on it. That's for sure.
Yeah, the fish came unglued and tried to eat it and just decided to eat the grub. So kind of exactly what Taylor just said.
Yeah.
There is one. So have you guys ever thrown those D4s or whatever they are by Musky Mayhem?
Yeah.
So they got like that split, and it's not straight through a wire. It's just they got like a little clevis in the middle. If
Yeah.
you put a tail on the end of that, that actually makes that bait swim. so that in that instance, that's something where it adds a lot to that bait, and I do put them on those. I don't know if you've ever done that or seen that, but definitely adds some serious action to that bait with that joint in the middle of it.
I don't know if I've fully like, where's the grub going? If there's like the two blades in front, a skirt, and then there's the joint where like the next wire's connected, and then there's the two black back blades, and then the back hook.
Yeah, you put it right on the back, the far back treble hook.
Oh, I gotcha.
On the back, that whole back part of that shaft actually swims. If you put a blade on the back, a tail on the back of it, completely change that bait.
That's pretty cool. That would maybe be something to try. I mean, it's already a big bait with blades all over it. You'd hope they'd kind of crush it from the side, usually on that one, or really really eat it, because that's not exactly a subtle presentation.
No, and most of those fish do hit that bait right in the middle of it.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're running at about, I don't know, hour and 40, hour and a half here. So you guys, Gus, Brian, you guys got any bow tying questions here to wrap up? This has been a lot of fun, and I feel like this is one of those that should have had the notepad out, but I think I got some good ideas brewing in my head.
Steel trap up there?
Yeah, the old steel traps.
Yeah.
Got some new ideas kind of brewing for this season.
Yeah, it's always good to tinker with stuff. I mean, you
Yeah.
just hear about new mods or bringing back old mods that people haven't heard about from a long time
I mean,
ago. It's fun stuff.
I'd say I hope I see you on the water again this year, Taylor, but I don't want you to catch another upper 40s right behind me again.
Second most gets the cheese. That's how it goes.
As long as he's not in front of you taking the fish, that's all right.
How funny would that be? Like we run into him again and he's in front of us and then sticks it. Like, can't win with this guy. I don't know how you guys ended up figuring that out, but I think it's just such a funny like small world story.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and honestly, so I actually that trip, it was funny too, because I had a guide trip right before that, and it was morning, and the clients were actually like an hour and a half late. So we missed that early morning window, and I was pretty upset about it. But we ended up, I think we only raised like 2 or 3 fish or something like that. They never got hooks in a fish, and I'm just looking at the weather, and it was just getting so saucy out. I'm like, we have to go. So my buddy, actually, he's lives in O'Connor now, and I was like, hey, let's go meet at that lake. And he ended up showing up late too, so we literally only had like 35 minutes on the water, and we popped both, and then we got hailed on. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We were just banging our heads all over that whole day. I think we raised a couple in like a shallower portion of that spot that we saw you catch those fish, and that was like it. And we were just like, all right, we got to get out of here. But
I think we were pretty burnt out that day. I think we just went out for a few hours because I think we weren't going to fish, and then we saw the weather and we're like, we got to go try.
True.
Right.
Very true.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you, Taylor, before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
What lake can we find you on opener?
Dude.
All right. Let's break it down.
In.
We'll give a real question. Are you going Clearwater or Stain for opener?
It's going to Green Bay.
Green Bay.
Oh.
Get back. I only fish that weekend down there, but when I get back, I'll probably hit the smaller stained waters first. And once again, it is all dependent on water temp and kind of where the spawn's at. You never know with Mother Nature now, but generally I start out in the smaller stained water, and then I try to stay on the exact same bite. Usually that's about a week and a half or 2 weeks behind that stained water is that Clearwater bite coming in. It's a couple feet deeper is all you're fishing, but you're basically fishing the exact same pattern that you were on. So I kind of follow that throughout the year and then back down again once you get into the fall.
Nice.
Makes
Cool.
sense to me.
What's that big Green Bay monster coming on this year? What's your prediction there? What's the bait that it's gonna engulf?
The same bait that I caught my last 3 Green Bay fish on, and that is a flaptail.
Nice.
Ooh,
Brian's ears
Nice.
perked up.
What kind of
favorite bait
flaptail
right
we
there.
what kind of flaptail we talking?
I throw the Lee lure. It's the metal series one. I really like that one. It's got the right amount of bloops and tings and whatever it may be. But that one, I have not caught a small fish on that thing yet. But that's a great, and I fish nighttime down there. I don't mess with the crowds. I absolutely hate that. But yeah, that throwing that flaptail, in anything from a foot to 6 foot of water or whatever down there, and it just gets exploded on in the middle of the night, and it's awesome.
Green Bay at
That
night
sounds
with a
fun.
flap tail. That's pretty wild. I haven't heard about that, but
You
that
don't hear
gives me
that
chills.
That gives you did you say that gives you chills?
Yeah, that sounds like my dream.
Jeez.
Surrounded by beasts with a flap tail at night. Come on.
Last year, the one that we caught down there, or whatever, it was something weird about this. But every time that I'm like, feeling kind of frisky or whatever, and I start, making fun of people or, picking at people and stuff that are on the water, like they had a fireworks show down there, and all these great big, monstrous boats that have no right being in the river, were headed up and they were watching the fireworks show. Well, then they all started peeling down the river at the end of that and just throwing a wake like you wouldn't believe. And we're, bouncing around the boat and can hardly stand up. And they're all yelling and screaming. So I, let out a scream, like kind of them, and fish absolutely crushed me and caught me off guard. I was picking on somebody. So that seems to happen. But yeah, it's funny how it went down.
That's awesome. All right. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Taylor. We can't thank you enough for taking the time. Wish you the best luck here this season. Hopefully we do. All jokes aside, hopefully do run into each other out on the water this summer, or maybe even get in the boat together. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, really appreciate you hopping on. This is a fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I had a great time, and you guys want to jump in the boat, you're more than welcome. I'd welcome you anytime.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for coming on, Taylor.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Taylor. Also, before we let you go, if you want to give people the information, how they can get a hold of you.
You can either call or text me at 715-490-5088. Otherwise, I do a lot of my stuff through Facebook and my guide pages, Musky Guarantee Guide Service. Shoot me a message on there, and I'll get a hold of you right away.
Sweet. Well, I definitely hope we get in the boat here soon. But I'd assume we're going to be staying in touch plenty. But of course, good luck on the water out there, and let's make it a good 2024 season up here.
Heck yeah, you too, man.
All right, guys, we cannot thank Taylor Flannery enough for coming on to the podcast, sharing his time with us tonight, and chatting about Northwoods Muskies. Man, we had a blast there. Appreciate his time coming on the podcast. And I think let's kind of go over some main takeaways that we had from the podcast. Gents, does anybody want to start, or do you want myself to lead it off? Or
I'll kick it off.
Yeah,
I'll
kick it
let
off,
rip.
Brian.
There you go,
Come
Brian.
on now. Kick it off.
Great talk with Taylor. Awesome dude. And one thing that stuck with me, and unfortunately is probably going to make me reach back to my wallet and buy another new bait. When he was talking about his cast back lure of choice with I feel like I'm going to botch the name. I can't remember exactly, but it's like the mini fat bastard.
Little
The
bastard.
Yeah, little
Yep.
bastard. I think he actually said that as like a castback bait, and when you see porpoising muskie, you'll just heave a little bastard. He'll have one like already pre-rigged up or something in the rod holder. He'll grab it out and just huck it in that direction, and he's caught those porpoising fish that way. So I know that's gotten in our heads a lot in the last couple of years when we're, going back on a fish, and then you see the fish stick its head out of the water and say F you. So hoping to take a little trick out of his book and capitalize on one of those this year. Max,
For sure.
what stood out to you? Any sort of thing that you're looking to put into your game plan this year?
Well, I mean, first of all, if we're on the bait talk, I think that was the first time somebody convinced you to actually go and buy a bait mid-interview. So now we got a few extra mini Medusas that just showed up. Thankfully, we're recording this little outro a few days later. So those have been landed. Brian copped 2 mini Medusas mid interview with Taylor. So thank you, Taylor, for giving Brian the nudge there to expand the tackle box. Yeah, for me, I think it's a little bit on the bait thing too, but it's more color. I know it's something we don't really talk about all that often. I think over the past few years, I've really kind of started to go away from the golds that we once grew up on that were so good to us, and a lot of those stay in northern waters. I know Gus throws them. For whatever reason, I just have not really thrown much gold, and he got me excited to kind of get back to the roots a little bit, start throwing a little bit more gold. Got a few baits already in mind that I'm gonna tee up for this year. So I know it's kind of a little bit of an arbitrary takeaway of the many good points that he had, but just something that kind of stuck out to me. Like, yeah, you know what? I don't throw enough gold, and it always shows up so good in the water, especially on those more stained tannic systems up north. So gave me a good little nudge to throw some more gold. Gus, what about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think I was gonna bring up the point on that mini Medusa too. He kind of stole that. That was definitely my favorite. I liked how you kind of gave the tidbit of actually adding the extra deep threat weight to the mini Medusas, because that was kind of the thing that we kind of got away from the minis, is that they kind of blew out of the water and maybe they didn't do what we were looking for them to do. And I think all we were missing was some nose heavy weight. And I think that was kind of just like the biggest thing. So that is a huge takeaway for myself and us to try this year. Keep running more weights in the front of our rubber baits as we normally always do. So I guess I don't know why we didn't really do that. I liked how he said with the mini Medusa as well, and not to keep just going on that subject, is that you can hop it over weeds really easily. Sounded like you can pretty much get those through anything and rip them through weeds just as easy as a large bait. So also I would say when he was talking about that late June time frame, just getting on some big fish on the weed edge seemed to be something pretty, like a dominant pattern of his that he's still on, a pattern that he's been doing for a while, and it seems to just be super solid. We've always had success in that time frame too. It's when a lot of small to medium lakes, I feel like, fully develop into a summer peak pattern. So that, and then one last quick thing, apart from just how much knowledge that Taylor has, I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. Even if he hasn't been guiding for very long, he's got a lot of knowledge up here, and it's just the fact that he kind of said that he doesn't really throw blades, which is I guess something I didn't really know about him, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, jerk baits and rubber and top waters are kind of king up here. I mean, you see every Bobby Joe on the ramp throwing a bucktail pretty much always. So even sometimes just a spinnerbait or a topwater are already differentiates yourself. So those are definitely some great takeaways that I had from the interview of all the knowledge that he brought to the table. So I think let's transition.
Super fun interview. Really had a good
Yes,
time chatting with
great
Taylor.
stories too.
Yeah, awesome
Yeah.
stories. Had a good time chatting with them. Yeah, I don't know. I always like talking to people where you can tell like when they're, they grew up doing the musky thing, but then like when you kind of pinpoint when that, I guess like you can kind of hear when he was telling his like story where it just goes from like, you're at your normal musky fisher and all of a sudden like boom through the roof. Like, all right, this is all I want to do now. I
Yeah,
always
there's
like hearing
always that
those
point.
stories 'cause
Always
I think
that little threshold.
we all had that.
I think now we can move on to the March Madness bracket. Sports guys, Brian, Max, should we do a drum roll here for the winner of a Muskies on Tap hat and a Suggs custom bucktail? Is, got a drum roll? Fish,
Oh,
fish with
with
Kish.
Kish.
Fish
LLC.
with
LLC.
Kish.
Are you
Shout out.
Shout out.
shout out? You have won the hat and bait. We will be in contact with you if we haven't already.
Guy's a savant. He's a savant.
He did
Yeah.
get like top 17K in the nation.
Dang.
Very
Picks.
impressed by all of our listeners, diehard muskie anglers, knowledge on the college basketball game. A lot of good brackets out there. So congrats to Fish with Kish getting it done. Coming out of a very, very well a group that obviously knows a lot about college basketball.
Yeah, totally.
Tough group to
Elite
win
competition.
elite competition. The guy he was just
Played in the mud for a couple weeks, came out on top.
He's cut above. Now he'll be getting a nice Suggs custom bucktail and a new Muskies on tap hat shipped right to his front door. So congrats, Fish with Kish, LLC. Good job.
Congrats.
Dog.
Well, we'll definitely be excited to run that again next year, and I'm sure down the line in the off season I would say more in particular, we'll do things like this. Some what do you call them? Why am
I mean, I
blanking?
don't know, just like competitions of some
Challenges,
sort, challenges,
giveaways.
whatever.
Yeah, all that stuff.
If
Anything.
our Instagram ever hits 2K, we'll probably do something. I don't know. We're
sure,
getting
yeah.
there slowly but surely. Brian, real quick, Gus, I just want to get a true mastermind's thoughts on the game from last night. Brian, what were your thoughts on the championship there?
I mean, pretty much when it's predicted. We saw the real Purdue shine. It's what killed Purdue last year in the first round. They have nobody outside of Edie, and the refs can't keep Edie afloat. The whole tournament, they called just insane tic-tac fouls on him or on the players guarding him all tournament long to keep Purdue in this thing. It's the NCAA's sweetheart is that big Edie boy, and unfortunately UConn is just way too good, better at every position except for center. And yeah, I was pleased with the result.
I think there's a bigger discussion here too, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners are Big Ten fans. Dude, there's just something about Big Ten just like not being able to get over the hump in those big games. Like obviously you had Iowa fall on Sunday night, you get Purdue to fall Monday, and it's like, man, I just feel like the Big Ten hasn't had like a big time winner in a while. I mean, outside of, your Buckeyes and football. I can't think of the last time a Big Ten team has done anything on the national level
Well,
as far as win something.
I hate to admit it either, but I mean,
Oh,
team
Jesus
up
Christ.
north.
Jesus Christ. What am I talking about? Oh my God. I'm blank. Wow. Don't.
I didn't want to shine the light
Please-
on them. I'm not a
Please
fan at
cut
all.
that. I sounded like an absolute idiot. All right. Well, outside of Michigan, I don't know, especially for basketball, it feels like,
Yeah,
Wisconsin's
basketball.
close.
I don't even know who the last. It had to be Michigan State a while ago.
People are gonna be like listening to me start talking and like start that sentence and just be like, God, this guy is just so stupid.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying. We've Big Ten, other than Michigan football this year, has been getting beat up pretty good in both basketball and football for a decade now, it feels like.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if that shifts at all once this conference realignment thing happens. But yeah, no, it was a pretty overall, I mean, boring, definitely boring second half, kind of a boring game. But yeah, overall good tournament. Thanks for everyone that participated in our bracket challenge. Be sure to be on the lookout for any other future challenges like Gus mentioned. We'll have to dial something up here for the summer, right?
Yeah, we'll put something out on the podcast for sure. Instagram most likely is that's our only account for Muskies on Tap. So find everything.
Gotta
on the
be
Muskies
following
on
the
Tap.
IG.
Gotta
Gotta be
follow the
following.
IG. Lots of good stuff ahead. Bait of the weeks are going to be running through May, and then we're going to take a break from that. There's only so many baits in the world. And
Yeah.
there's only so many baits that we own. We'll pick that back up in the winter, but we got
Yeah.
at least six or so more bait of the week.
I love this week how we're educating our followers on the old mag dog, old bulldog, a bait that
Yeah,
nobody knows about.
Yeah.
yeah, such a secret
Y'all can
bait.
thank us when you buy your first one.
Hot new bait on the market. This is
Remember who put you
rubber
on.
bait.
Just
No,
remember.
yeah, the bait of the weeks have been fun, but I'm excited to start dialing up some more musky content, and I think we should have some pretty good stuff here. I mean, knock on wood. Obviously, we got to actually execute, but got some really fun trips like early this year. I feel like the season's going to start kind of hot and heavy for us this year, more so than usual. So I mean, this will be our first time. This will be my first time ever fishing Southern opener in Southern Wisconsin for muskies.
Yeah,
Same here.
yeah, I think
And we
should-
me too. I've only fished Southern Wisconsin like a week or so after opener, so I've never, done the double opener in a year. Normally we just fish walleye and bass up here. So this will be
Mhm.
freaking awesome. I'm stoked.
Yeah. And everything seems to be lining up well for Cave Run. I mean, reports that have been coming down from, those people that have been fishing down there, everything seems like it's actually kind of going pretty good this year. So I'm hoping. I always get a little bit nervous when like things are going super well a few weeks in advance of a trip
Yeah.
because you're like, how long can it sustain for? But hopefully they push through that spawn like now, or they have. I don't know.
Hoping
I
so.
mean, if anyone that's listening to this is down in that area or is Fish Cave Run this year, don't be shy to send us a DM or something and let us
Give us-
know where
Give us
things
the
are at.
update. Yeah, and then we can, project it on the next podcast, or because we really only have 2 more podcasts that'll come out after this before Cave Run, so we don't have a lot of time to update people on that for the most part. So for sure 2 more interviews. Well, we got a special one right before Cave, and then after that it'll be kind of here and there on when we get to interview people. We're gonna all get really busy, and so will pretty much all of the Muskie
Everybody
Nation.
that I have been interviewing. It's kind of,
Mhm.
but we'll see how it goes this summer. I mean,
Yeah, get to listen to us knuckleheads yap a little bit more. Nothing wrong with that.
You
yeah,
guys seem
good
to
hear
enjoy
Brian.
the bait talk from the expo, so I mean it can't go too wrong, right? I mean, it just
As long as we're
depends
catching
on.
fish.
Yeah, that's true. It depends on
The
when
only
we
thing
record too.
yeah, just gonna say the thing I'm worried about for the summer episodes is like there's gonna be some late nights. I feel like with you guiding and whatnot, we're gonna be
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
doing some
hell.
yeah. Brian's gonna be on every other week, maybe every third. All right, we're starting to record at
I'm gonna
about
I'm gonna get
1:45 tonight.
get the text from Gus, just getting off the water and it's 11 o'clock. All right, I'm out.
Yeah, Gus. One thing I am a little nervous about for Cave Run is I'm hoping that we actually do get a little action pre-fishing because they have the first fish of the year comes during tournament hours. That'll be
What? What's
something.
wrong with that?
Yeah,
Check
That's
the
what
rust
happened
off.
last year.
true. Yeah,
A little
true.
shaky though. It gets your heart rate going just that much more. So we'll see
Yeah,
how
I
it goes.
know. It's all coming up soon. Be here before we know it.
Hell yeah. All right. I think other than just follow us on the socials, Muskies on Tap, or you can follow my guide service, Suggs Fishing on Instagram or Suggs Fishing Guide Service on Facebook. Add me as a friend on Facebook, tell a friend, share it with the public, leave a review, like it, hate it, love it, anything, send it in. If you want to get out this year for smallmouth bass fishing for a little bit, let me know. Also got some open dates yet in June for muskie. July is getting solid. August is getting there. So all those summer peak dates are a lot fewer and farther between. So get them before they're gone. I think with that being said, that's a wrap. Brian, take it away.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Muskies on Tap. Shout out once again to Taylor for coming on. Excellent talk with him. Great guy. Make sure to book a trip with him, unless you're going to book with Gus, of course. This weekend, we got the Masters. And let's run through some predictions here, guys. Tiger Woods making the cut. He's going to make the cut. too much experience there. He's going to make some putts. He's going to make the cut this week and still hoping us all again. Rory McIlroy's going to go out in a pair of 66s going into Saturday. Solo
No
lead by
chance.
3.
No chance.
Scotty Scheffler's going to be on his coattails. Same with Brooks Koepka. And guys, to end the tournament, we got a 3-way playoff. Brooks, Scotty, Rory, bring us home. Highest viewed golf tournament of all time. It's going to bring tears to all of our eyes, and we'll film it all for you. Peace.
Who's your winner? Who's your winner?
Rory.
Shocker.
I'm not ready to go on a limb there yet. That's not who I'm betting on. That's not